Am I the asshole for not allowing mother-in-law to do rituals in my home? My husband and I are in the process of moving into our new home. We are getting some things updated before moving in. My mother-in-law was very insistent on doing her religious rituals to our home before we move in. Basically, my husband would wave a sword around while I sprinkle holy water, and my mother-in-law follows behind us chanting. I do not know what religion she is. I don't think she's religious at all, but more superstitious. She gets the holy water and chant from a monk. I am not religious, but I do lean more towards Christianity because that is what I grew up with. Before we moved into our house now, we actually did this process. But I refuse to do it again at our new home because whatever belief mother-in-law has, it makes me very uncomfortable for specific reasons. When my oldest was born, my mother-in-law told me she paid the monks to have his fortune read. She said I had to place his crib facing a specific way, or he would get hit by a car and die at some point in his life. She also told me he would suffer greatly in life if he visited my parents before he was 6 months old. I lost it on her. I told her if she ever had my children's future read, she would be instantly cut off. And how dare she tell me where and who my child could see? I did not let her see him for the first 6 months. I was peed off she told me my newborn would die or suffer. And from that point forward, I wanted nothing to do with her religious beliefs. That is why I refused to let her do anything to our home. She cried and threw a fit. My husband is mad at me because he thinks it is harmless to humor her. He doesn't believe in her religion, but he wants to do whatever we can to appease her. And I will not, because it is bullshit. And I will never forgive or forget her telling me my newborn would die. Who the F does that? Am I the asshole for not giving in? Edit, I just want to say that I have no issues with her belief if it was just the home blessing. I was fully on board and kept an open mind at first. She blessed our first home, and I sprinkled the water with a straight face, while my husband stabbed at spirits with his sword. Weird but harmless. I did it. But then my oldest was born. I was a new mom with a tiny baby that I didn't know how to take care of. I had a million things to worry about. And instead of reassuring me, she told me that child would die early because his crib was wrong. And then on top of that, she tried to take the support of my parents away. That is the moment where I had to draw the line. I cannot accept the home blessing without also validating her belief that the monks can predict and prevent the future if things are done in specific ways. That's where I'm coming from. I refuse to hear anything related to my kids, so I have to refuse the home ritual as well, because with one comes the other. Am I the asshole for doing the same thing to my sister-in-law that she does to my son? So background, I, 32 female, have a brother, Dave, 35 male, who's married to Sarah, 29 female. They don't have children yet. I have a son who just turned 4 and a 3-month-old daughter with my husband, 39 male. My husband and I live in Belgium most of the time, but we travel back to visit my family about once a month in England. At home, we speak both English and French to our children. My husband is Belgian, and right now, my son is in this very sweet phase where he'll sometimes mix up the two languages and say a couple of words in English in a French sentence, or vice versa. This has never posed a problem to us, and even the staff at his nursery have reassured us that it's very common and they tend to grow out of it once they start at school. My sister-in-law has decided that this is a problem, so when we're visiting my parents and she notices my son doing this, she'll correct him, but she does so really rudely, whereas my husband and I will just gently correct him. Anyway, we're visiting at the moment and she's now decided that instead of correcting him, she's just going to start ignoring him when he does this. I sort of noticed her doing it when we arrived, and I thought it was odd, but assumed maybe she was just stressed. Her job is quite intense, but it only really became an issue yesterday. My husband was talking to my dad outside and I was feeding my daughter in the other room, and I'd left Louis with Sarah and Dave. When I came back downstairs, Louis was crying, and I managed to understand that he'd tried to ask Sarah for a drink. He has a special cup he uses that he was holding, so it was obvious what he meant, but that she'd just ignored him. I asked her why and she explained that she wasn't going to reply to him unless he said the sentence correctly, and that I shouldn't be ignoring my son's obvious speech issues. For context, it's not that she didn't know what he wanted. She told me that she understood exactly what he was asking for, but that she was deliberately refusing because he hadn't asked correctly. This really peed me off, but luckily my husband came inside at that moment and pulled me away so we could calm down and settle Louis. That night at the dinner table, Sarah asked me to pass her something, but she said it in bad English. She is English, I just mean that she asked for it in slang. Think, pass us the peas, will you? I had a bit of an epiphany and I just decided to totally ignore her. She asked again, and I did the same thing. My brother asked why I was ignoring his wife and I said that I'm not able to reply if she can't speak English correctly, and that it's wrong of him to ignore her obvious issues with grammar. Everyone's pretty peed off with me and I admit it was incredibly childish, but she was needlessly being a dickhead to my baby. Should I just apologize? Edit, wow, this really blew up. Thanks for all the comments and support, and thanks for all the everyone sucks here and the you're the ass messages too. I'm not going to apologize to her, because, to be quite frank, I think she deserved it, but I will have a conversation with her and my brother before we leave to try and explain that. For one thing, it's completely normal, and, more importantly, that if she keeps correcting or ignoring my son, I'll be severely limiting their contact. Although I doubt if I'll ever leave him alone in a room with her again anyway. To answer a few of the most common questions, when I said everyone was mad at me, I meant my brother, his wife, and my parents, although my parents don't agree with what Sarah's doing either. They're more trying to keep the peace. My husband is entirely on my side, and when he realized what Sarah had done to Louis, he only saw the aftermath. He wanted to cut short the trip. Sarah and the rest of my family only speak English, which I suppose goes some way towards explaining why she doesn't understand it. I do think it's a monolingual reaction because we've never experienced anything similar in Belgium. One final thing, lots of questions about why we're in the UK so often. My husband has to be in London for his job about once a month, once every 6 weeks, so we tag along. I freelance, and a few of my clients are UK-based, so it's a good opportunity for me to fit in a few meetings too. It also gives us the chance to bring Louis and Misha over to see my parents before Louis starts school, and we have to cut down on the visits. Am I the asshole for calling my stepmother delusional, for thinking I would change my mind on her adopting me? My mom died when I was 6 years old. My dad ended up turning to one of his good friends, Anna, and they ended up getting married when I was 7. Anna brought up the idea of adopting me the day of the wedding. It was something my dad was all for, but I went nuts when she mentioned it to me, and I kinda spoiled the rest of the wedding. For the next year, we did this really intense therapy, where I was told over and over again, by the therapist and them, that I needed a mom, that it would provide safety for me, and that it was not a betrayal of my mom to accept another loving mom into my life. The therapist put the recommendation into the court to approve it, but when the judge spoke to me, I told him that I would run away, and that I would do everything to never come back. I was 8 at the time and meant business. He asked me why I didn't want to be adopted. He listened, and when he addressed the court again, he denied the adoption request and told my dad and Anna that until I was on board, no adoption would be approved in his court. They did try again, requesting a different judge, but received the same response. I was asked constantly to change my mind. Anna would put her all into trying to fill the place of a mom in my life. Every time I told her she could never be my mom, she took it as a challenge to try harder and better, and she would dedicate so much time to me it was crazy. I never appreciated it because instead of just being Anna, and instead of my dad telling her to just be Anna, she saw mom as the only thing she wanted. Even when she had kids of her own, I was their oldest son, I was her son, her boy, she'd call herself a boy mom, etc. Whereas, I have never called her mom. If we're being honest, I don't even love her after all these years. I see her as more of an intrusive family member who won't stop. My relationship with my dad is also not the best, because I don't like that he wouldn't take no for an answer, and that he was so quick to try and push an adoption. Even after I told him I would rather be with grandparents, or an aunt, uncle, or close family friend to Anna if he died, he insisted being with Anna and her being my mom was the best for me. I turned 18 a few months ago, and I ran like my ass was on fire to get away from dad and Anna. I lived with my maternal grandparents for a little while, before moving in with my maternal uncle, who lived near a really good apprenticeship I wanted to join. My paternal grandparents celebrated their wedding anniversary this past weekend, and I was there. While there, Anna approached me and handed me papers for an adult adoption. She told me she loved me, and she wanted me to know it was not too late, that she would still adopt me, and she wanted to make our relationship official, as mother and son. I asked her how she could be so delusional, when I have said no to being adopted for 11 years now. I told her I would not change my mind. She and my dad were so peeved at my choice of words, and chaos ensued at the party. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for stealing back a necklace my father made me give to my stepsister? My, 15 female, parents divorced when I was 4, and my father, 47 male, remarried 2 years later. My stepmother, Elizabeth, 40 female, brought her daughter, 13 female, with her when she moved in with my father. By court order, I live half on half off with my dad, but tend to stick around my mom's more anyways, since I hate my step family. Since Elizabeth remarried my father, she has taken it upon herself to, basically, cut me out of the family, and once my half-brother, 8 male, was born, it's like they barely knew I existed. My father hasn't turned up to one of my big events since I was 11, and that was my birthday party. I was really close with my grandmother on my father's side, and loved her to bits. When I was 12, she bought us matching Tiffany necklaces for my birthday. Just a really simple Tiffany heart, but I really loved it. When my grandmother died earlier this year, she left all of her possessions to me and my cousin Daniel, 17 male, who I am also really close to. All of her assets were sold, and any money she had was divided between us to put into a trust that we can't access until we are 25. She also left me the matching necklace she got to go with mine. When I received it, my stepsister began crying and complaining about me having 2 necklaces, while she has none. My dad said he will buy her one as well if she calms down, but she started screaming even more, saying she wanted my grandmother's. My dad tried to get me to give it to her, but I refused. He ended up threatening to take my phone and remove enough money for another version of the necklace from my bank account, about 500 Australian dollars. I handed it over and left to my mother almost immediately. When I spoke over the phone to my cousin that evening, he said we should break into my dad's house and take it back. I thought it was a fabulous idea. So at about 11:30 p.m. that night, we drove over to his house and entered through the back door, to which I have a key. We snuck through the house to my stepsister's room and took it back. The next morning, I received a call from my dad, asking what I thought I was doing, breaking into the house so late at night. I totally forgot he had one of those doorbells that records, and it videoed us walking around the side of the house. He demanded I give the necklace back. I told him that all he does is treat me like rubbish, and I won't be returning to his house anytime soon, and that he better drop all the fuss over a necklace that is mine. I haven't spoken to him since, but I have received some few tastefully worded texts from my stepmother's family about how upset I made my stepsister. Also, my father has been blowing up his sister's phone, Daniel's mother, to say what a bad job she did, raising him and other bad stuff like that. I asked my mom what she thinks, but she thinks it was my right to take the necklace back. But maybe breaking into my father's house at night was a bit rash. I don't think I was wrong at all, but I wanted to ask. So I am wondering if I may be the asshole in this situation. Am I the asshole for not showing up to the birthday party that my husband planned for me? So, my husband is a jokester and a prankster. He has a habit of pulling pranks, especially on my birthdays. He judges my reactions as overreactions and says I should loosen up and be extra happy because he thinks he's making my birthdays extra funny. But it actually upset me and put me in a position where I get laughed at and recorded by his family. He planned for my 26th birthday this past week, which was held at a restaurant. I told him I wouldn't go if he was going to pull one of those pranks he's famous for because it's a public place, and I did not want to be publicly humiliated. He swore on his mom, on the Bible, promised me and brought 2 witnesses, wrote an agreement stating he'd pay money if he pulled a prank. I believed him and said that I'd go. I had to cancel with my parents who wanted to celebrate at their house. The day of my birthday, I got a text from one of his friend's wives telling me she heard him tell her husband about the prank he was going to pull on me at the restaurant. I was stunned as she detailed what the plan was going to be. I felt so upset and anxious. He already went ahead and got to the restaurant to make sure all was set. I ended up deciding to not go. He started calling, then texting asking where I was and saying the party was going to start without me. I turned my phone off and went to my parents' house and had a small party there. I went home at 7 p.m. and found my husband there fuming at me. He lashed out asking why the hell did I not show up to the party after he put money, time, and effort in it. I told him why and he called his friend's wife a liar and reminded me of all the proms he made and accused me of not trusting his word. I said I couldn't take the chance and risk having him basically ruin another birthday of mine. We had a huge argument, then he started giving the cold shoulder, while pointing out how I embarrassed him and wasted his time and money by not showing up. Thanks for watching. Do you think the OPs are assholes or not? Leave your answer in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.